Hey everybody, Karthik Subramaniam over at Audi Schools. I had to record a video talking about the National Association of Realtors settlement because all the stuff I'm seeing online is completely without context. There's no history behind it. I wanted to come on and record a video kind of giving the history of where the National Association of Realtors Clear Cooperation Guidelines started, kind of the history of how we got here, the lawsuit, and then ultimately the settlement and how it'll change the landscape of real estate. Let's go back, call it 16 years ago, 2008, 9, 10. So back in 2008, 9, and 10, there was a ton of houses on the market, a ton. Every other property was a short sale or a foreclosure or some kind of bank-owned REO. So there was a ton of listings that were on the market. Once the inventory started to kind of cool off a little bit, fewer homes came on the market. What we saw 2012, 2013, 2014, as a lot of those REOs, foreclosures, and short sales started to flow through the market, we started to see shrinking inventory. And frankly, that problem of low inventory has been one that's been plaguing the California real estate market since probably 2013. In fact, I recorded a video back in 2013 that I'll play for you right now, talking about real estate agents taking pocket listings and not putting a bunch of their homes on the MLS. Hey everybody, Karthik Subramaniam over at Audi Schools. Just wanted to share a few things with you in reference to our current market. Here we are, it's April of 2013, and most markets are experiencing extremely low inventory levels. And what has been a dangerous trend is that a lot of agents are getting their sellers to sign SCLs, or authorizations for the seller to exclude their listing from the multiple listing service. Now, I know why agents are doing this, because they're trying to double end the deal. They're keeping it out of the MLS in order to find their own buyer and get the entire commission. That is a very, very short-sighted mentality. We need the MLS. The MLS is the way that we offer compensation to other brokers. It's the way that we do the best job for our sellers because it exposes the property to the open market. We need the MLS. And I know that it's, with the inventory being so thin right now, it's pretty easy to find your own buyer, get both sides of the commission, and move on. But I would challenge you. I don't believe that if you are doing this as a practice, I don't believe that you're doing what's in the best interest of the seller. It's extremely important to have an open market transaction where all agents can participate, where all buyers know about the property. So that video was me literally in 2013 on YouTube talking about how real estate agents aren't putting a lot of their homes on the MLS, and they're convincing their sellers to keep the property off the market and are doing pocket listings. Fast forward to 2019, 2020, the National Association of Realtors came out with something called their Clear Cooperation Guidelines. Basically, what Clear Cooperation did, and in fact, I'll play a video from the National Association of Realtors for you right now.
In November 2019, the NAR Board of Directors adopted the Clear Cooperation Policy in response to concerns about the use of pocket listings and other tactics to keep properties off the MLS to the disadvantage of homebuyers and sellers. Effective January 1, 2020, with local implementation required by May 1, 2020, this policy requires listing brokers to submit property listings to the MLS for cooperation within 1 business day of publicly marketing a property. This reinforces the consumer benefits of cooperation and ensures that MLSs are an efficient and transparent marketplace that is pro-competitive and pro-consumer. In recent years, there has been a significant growth in the use of pocket listings and misuse of various limited exposure marketing tactics. Brokers resorted to such methods because of historically low inventory and high demand in popular areas. An issue with pocket listings is that some brokers used it on the basis that their client needed privacy, but then publicly marketed the property on their brokerage website, on an exclusive network, or in social media to a limited scope of people. Also, pocket listings generally have been perceived as benefiting the listing firm more than the client. In terms of coming soon, some brokers misused it by advertising a property as becoming available for showing or sale at a later date, but then allowed a chosen few, sometimes their own clients, to see the property and be given an opportunity to purchase before anyone else. These types of issues have restricted the number of choices for buyers, raised questions about fair and equal opportunity, leading to fair housing concerns, have skewed MLS data, and have resulted in breach of fiduciary duties lawsuits. The Clear Cooperation policy is intended to address these issues and to ensure homebuyers and sellers benefit from having access to the most comprehensive property information through the MLS. It also establishes a uniform rule for all publicly marketed properties, ensuring greatest market exposure for consumers and consistent business practices, which minimizes confusion. While the deadline is May 1 for all MLSs to adopt this policy, some already have implemented it. Make sure you contact your MLS to know their timing for adoption so you can proceed accordingly. And as previously mentioned, a property listing must be submitted to the MLS for cooperation within 1 business day of public marketing. A business day means a day that is not a Saturday, Sunday, or a federal or state recognized holiday. And public marketing is any promotion or advertisement of the property to the public. Examples include promotions through yard signs, flyers, brokerage website displays including IDX and VOW, digital advertising on public-facing sites, communications with other brokerages, and on portals. Here are some other things to keep in mind regarding the policy. Is coming soon still allowed? Brokers can still advertise a property as coming soon. MLSs can define specific statuses and showing requirements for coming soon and delayed showings for properties that truly are not yet ready to be shown. What about pocket listings? Sellers may direct that their listings not be placed in the MLS, but this can only be done as an office exclusive where the promotion of the property is limited to brokers and agents in the same listing brokerage. This ensures that no public marketing takes place, which protects the client's need for privacy. Does a property listing have to be included in an MLS's IDX display? Sellers can choose to have their property listing kept out of all internet display. This is helpful if your client is concerned about privacy. Brokers can work with their clients to determine an appropriate marketing plan, taking into account the client's needs and full disclosure of the benefits to market exposure. Is it possible to opt out of the policy's obligations? The policy does not include any opt-out. Before entering into an agency agreement, a broker should explain to your client how you can serve their best interest in accordance with your state law, the Code of Ethics, and MLS submission rules. This should include an explanation of the many benefits of listing on the MLS for cooperation. How does this policy help consumers? The Clear Cooperation policy aims to ensure that consumers have equal access to all available properties through a transparent process which promotes fair housing. And it bolsters cooperation and advances the positive and pro-competitive impacts that cooperation fosters for consumers. Thank you for watching this episode of Window to the Law.
So basically that video was an attorney at the National Association of Realtors talking about clear cooperation. Basically, clear cooperation says if you have a pocket listing, meaning that you have a listing that's kept out of the MLS and the seller has authorized it to be out of the MLS, you can't actually start publicly marketing that property. And if you do, under clear cooperation, this would trigger a 1 business day requirement for you as the realtor to put the property in the MLS 1 business day after you started publicly marketing that pocket listing. This basically means if you're a realtor, every property that you list basically has to go on the MLS if you're going to publicly market it. So several years ago, an attorney in Missouri said, whoa, why is it that real estate agents are forcing sellers to put their property into the MLS? If a seller wants to tell their realtor, hey, I don't want you to use the MLS, I don't want to pay a buyer agent commission, you market the property to your own network and you find a buyer. But under clear cooperation, that wasn't possible. Every listing within 1 business day of publicly marketing the property has to be put inside of the multiple listing service. Also, you couldn't put a property in the MLS without some offer of buyer compensation. So basically, if you're going to put a property inside of the multiple listing service, whether it's $1, 2%, 2.5%, 3%, the listing agent has to offer some amount of compensation to an outside agent. And that really is what the MLS was for. The MLS was supposed to be a marketplace where people who had listings could offer a portion of their total compensation to other buyer agents in the area, and share that commission with one another. The argument that was made in the Missouri case, which resulted in like a $5 billion judgment against the National Association of Realtors and a bunch of large brokers, said, hey, the real estate community is colluding with each other to force sellers to put the property into the multiple listing service and are thereby fixing prices and fixing compensation in this pool of members. This, they argued, is a violation of antitrust law. So think about this for a second. What's happening is a real estate agent, because let me ask you this. Do you think a seller should be able to put their property on the market with a real estate agent without putting it in the MLS? Most people would say, yeah. Sellers should have the right to put their property on the market without using this third-party MLS system. Do you think it's right? Now, the MLS has a lot of benefits, so don't misunderstand my point. I'm just asking if you think that a seller should be able to put their property on the market without putting it on the MLS. Most people would say, fine, for whatever reason, privacy, whatever, sellers should be able to put the property on the market without using the MLS. My next question is, do you think that an agent should be able to market the property only to their network, do some cold calling, do some mailers, do some door knocking, and try to drum up their own buyer? Now, most people would say, fine, if you're a real estate agent and you want to do that and the seller says, hey, that's the marketing route I want to go, that might not be the smartest way to get top dollar, but maybe a real estate agent should have the ability to do that with the seller's consent. Under clear cooperation rules in the National Association of Realtors, this was not possible. You cannot privately market a property to the public without using the MLS. All listings have to be input in the MLS within 1 business day of you starting the public marketing. Even if you have an authorization to exclude the listing from the multiple listing service. These Missouri attorneys were able to successfully argue that, hey, the real estate community has colluded to force sellers to use this MLS database, to force sellers to pay inflated commissions, not only to their agent, but to some other buyer's agent that they don't even know exists yet. This resulted in this $5 billion judgment. So that's Missouri. All these other copycat lawsuits started to pop up all over the country. So a few days ago, the National Association of Realtors decided to pay a $480 million settlement over a period to settle these lawsuits. As of the time of this recording, this is still subject to court approval. However, the terms of the settlement look like they're going to, number one, prevent real estate listing agents from offering compensation to buyer agents through the MLS. So now, as of like the summer, July or whatever, listing agents are not going to be able to list some amount of compensation in the MLS. Number one. Number two, as part of the settlement, buyer's agents are going to be required to have a buyer-broker agreement with their buyer. Now, a lot of real estate agents are thinking, great, fine, now I'm not going to get screwed around by a buyer who uses me to look at property and then ultimately buys a house through someone else. So a lot of folks are saying, hey, this is good for buyer representation because buyers are going to have to sign buyer-broker agreements with their realtors. The question is going to be, what effect will this have on buyer agents' commissions? Are buyer's agents going to have to write offers on homes and then in that offer say, hey, here's my offer for $1.2 million, pay me a 2% commission, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Are buyers going to have to get that money directly from the buyer? Or is there going to be some combination of the two? So all this sort of remains to be seen, but that's the history. That's the history of clear cooperation. That's the crux of the lawsuit in Missouri, and that's the high-level settlement piece. So I've been seeing all these articles how the 6% commission's dead, how the real estate industry's changed forever, and maybe this is true, but it's still too early to tell. Now I don't want to come at this video super clickbaity and say the real estate market collapsing, click here. I just wanted to give folks history of 2008, 9, 10, oversupply on the market. 2012, 13, 14 till now, historically there's been a low inventory problem in the market, exacerbated more by lower interest rates because no one wants to sell their home at 2.5% interest fixed for 30 years and go buy another house at 7% fixed for 30 years. That's a tough pill to swallow. But I want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think is going to change in the real estate, in the practice of real estate? Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How do you think this is all going to play out? Comment below and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.